All right, well, welcome to Tim's Take today, and we have two special guests today, Richard Arnett and Jeff McHugh. Richard, we go back a long time, and we were just telling some war stories about the good old days 40 years ago.
Wow.
And tell us about what you've been doing for the last 40 years.
About the same thing I was doing 40 years ago. I'm just older and wider
And wiser.
Yeah. No, I'm the executive director of Missouri Crop Improvement Association, and I actually worked there my last 3 years at MU as an undergrad. So I've been there for a long time. But they let me sit in the big chair. Oh, I became director in 95.
Oh, my goodness.
I think 95, 96. And been there ever since. For people that don't know, Missouri Crop Improvement used to be called Missouri Seed Improvement Association.
Okay.
And we changed our name in 2001 because historically we've always worked with seed producers. We are the old timers will remember Blue Tag certified seed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, officially that's what we do. We're designated by the state to be the official seed certifying agent for the state.
All right, and you've seen this change a lot over the time, because probably when you started, y'all did, what, tall fescue seed?
Oh, we did everything, all seed.
Right, so like now it's soybean and wheat.
Soybean and wheat, little oats, barley, rice. Actually, I tell people now what we do hasn't changed much over the years, but what we do it on has, because our two biggest volume crops now in terms of volume moved is actually peanuts and rice.
Really?
Yeah.
So when you're certifying it, what are y'all doing?
We are assuring varietal purity.
Okay.
To make sure that the variety is what it's supposed to be and that it's not contaminated with things that don't belong.
Like other varieties?
Other varieties or anything that would be considered a nuisance, like a inseparable other crop, mm-hmm. or any kind of a restricted or prohibited weed seed, things like that. It's a quality assurance program is what it is.
And you do germ tests too on it.
That's one of the criteria, yeah.
Mm-hmm. It has to have a certain germ. And
mm-hmm.
Now, but you also did forages a long time ago.
Yeah.
Tall fescue seeds. Yeah. I remember those. And
most of the R&D into new cultivars for forage crop, well, for all crops, has gone to the private sector. And the private sector has a different business model than the traditional public sector open research, open availability. And a lot of the private sector has their own quality assurance programs.
Okay.
So they don't use the third-party seed certification.
So you're a third party,
yeah.
for the public varieties.
Well, anyone can do it.
Okay.
There are eligibility criteria that varieties have to meet in order to be produced as a class of certified seed. But any private sector, public sector, anyone can do that. It's just that most of the private sector chooses to either use their own or put the responsibility on the companies that they contract and license with to take care of it.
And you mentioned the old-timers thinking the blue tags.
Mm-hmm.
You don't do that anymore?
No, we still have them.
Okay, I thought I see them.
There are fewer and fewer cultivars are developed and released that can be certified.
Okay.
Because most producers don't have a clue. But certified seed is only for genetics that are sold by variety name. And in most crop kinds anymore, cultivars are not sold by variety name, they're sold by brand name. And the difference would be, say, you develop Tim's Best wheat,
mm-hmm.
and that's what you're gonna call it. You put it through a certification program. Well, everyone that produces that everywhere will call it Tim's Best wheat.
Okay.
The business model today is if you develop a new wheat, you're going to put a number on it, like ABC 123, and then you're going to license the rights to that to 50 different companies. Those 50 different companies will put 50 different names on it.
Oh, okay.
So it's a branded market now instead of a cultivar market for most things.
So only the blue tags are on...
Only on varieties.
Varieties, okay. And And you keep mentioning certified, so there's a hierarchy here, not there? So what is that hierarchy?
Seed certification, it's a pedigree program is what it is.
Okay.
So say you develop your wheat. Well, what you developed is usually a pretty small quantity, and we call that breeder seed because breeder seed is still under your control. It hasn't entered into the seed certification process yet. But once all of the eligibility and everything has been established and we deem that that cultivar is eligible to be produced as certified seed, then there are 3 classes that can be produced within that system. And the most pure class is what we would call the parent class, foundation class. And that's what we'll get into what Jeff does.
Okay.
And that is the most pure seed of that variety. And then there are 2 more classes beyond that are commercial classes that will get it actually to the point where it's sold to the farmer. So you start with foundation, start with breeder. They produce the foundation seed, make it available to seed producers. Then the seed producer plants the foundation. From that, what he harvests is eligible to be registered class, which is the intermediate class of the 3. Okay. It's basically just another increased class. And from that, a seed producer will plant either foundation or registered. They produce the certified seed, which is what's sold commercially to the producers.
Okay. All right. So he's increasing these foundation seeds to registered and then the certified.
Yeah. In the old days, foundation seed it was a 2-pronged responsibility. One was to take your new cultivar, keep it pure, and increase it to commercial quantities. And then the second was to maintain pure seed for sale to the seed producers. So he was the last step in the R&D process for new stuff, but he was also the maintainer for pure seed stock for seed producers to come back and get pure seed, because each generation, the likelihood of some kind of contaminant being introduced increases. So after 2 generations, you have to go back and start with pure again.
And who takes care of that pure seed again? The foundation seed?
Yeah. Historically, that's what they always did, because, again...
Who does it now?
Well, now, again, a lot of this material doesn't go through seed certification anymore.
Okay. But any variety will be purified, kept by the foundation seed.
Right. If the owner or developer chooses to go that route, yes.
Yeah.
Now, another reality is, back in the day, a new cultivar had a useful life of probably 8, 10, 12, 15 years. Now, a new cultivar has a useful life of about 2 to 3 years.
Oh, wow.
Because they churn out new material so often. I think in manufacturing they would call it planned obsolescence. When you release this, when you've already got its replacement coming.
Now, when I was a kid growing up, we planted a lot of public varieties, forest, for example, soybeans, and we would save that seed back, or wheat, we would plant heart and save it back. Things changed, didn't it? Things
changed when R&D shifted from the public sector to the private sector.
Okay.
And there was, up until 1970, there really wasn't much of a way for you as a developer to protect your new invention, your new variety. In 1970, they passed federal law that established the Plant Variety Protection Act. So that gave any developer of a new cultivar, it wasn't a patent, but it was patent-like protection for a period of 18 years.
Oh.
So basically, if you got a PVP certificate on your new variety, you had the right to protect that for 18 years, which basically... there was also an option in there that you could choose called the Title V option, which if the developer elected that option, then legally the only way that variety could be sold was if it was a class of certified seed. So that gave them protection from other people infringing on producing and selling their varieties.
Okay.
The PVP also came with some exemptions, and one of those was the farmer exemption, which said if you, the farmer, purchased certified seed of a variety, then you were free to save back and use that yourself, And you could also sell any excess up to a point.
That selling to a point stopped, didn't it?
The point changed in 95 when they amended the act, and they defined what saved seed was and greatly limited the ability to legally sell saved seed.
Okay, because I remember going to the local elevator and buying a variety of soybean or wheat that another farmer had brought in to get cleaned, but they had excess. So that stopped in 95.
It stopped in 95, and another thing that was driving that was up until the mid-late 80s, there was still a lot of funding available for public research, for public universities and experiment stations to develop new cultivars. That started to dry up, and public funding for research in those areas became less and less and less. So the universities and the public breeding programs followed the private sector model of assessing a fee on every unit of seed sold. Some call it a research assessment, some call it a royalty, but basically it's a fee for use.
Okay.
And then universities, the public sector breeding programs started to look at that as a way to basically replace public funding for research with fee for use funding.
Okay.
And that started to drive more of the protection, the licensing, that type of thing.
And a breeder, let's say a soybean breeder, they get to make that decision whether they want to release it as a variety or a brand.
Correct. Well, the breeder or the sponsoring institution.
Okay.
Which in the university's case would be, I don't even know what alphabet it goes by now, but there is a department over there that makes those decisions on licensing and how things are released.
And a lot of universities now are coming up with certain traits, aren't they? That's really what they're really concentrating on. I think the folks down at the Delta Center coming up with soybean cyst nematode resistance was huge. That really kept soybeans alive, industry alive in the South.
Sure.
And that was a great success story. And those varieties, the parents of those are in probably every soybean out there now.
In one form or another, probably.
Right.
Yeah.
As far as resistance to soybean cyst nematode.
Right. They integrate those. Some of the best material that comes out of the public sector it never sees the market as a cultivar, because commercially it might not yield as well, doesn't look good, doesn't stand well. There's something with
Hartwig, for example.
That's where I was going. Yeah. But Hartwig was developed by Dr. Anand at the Delta Center back many years ago. He named it Hartwig after Dr. Edward Hartwig. And long story short, that it had a novel source of resistance to SCN. Commercially, it wasn't any good, but as germplasm, it was great. So that germplasm became integrated into a whole platform of material still is today.
We would plant Hartwig on our nastiest, sandiest ground because it could grow well. The cyst nematodes were hot on it, and having a lot, and it was resistant.
Yeah.
But the university does not get royalties on that anymore, correct?
On the cultivar, no. And this was back at a time before they realized that germplasm had value too. So they have germplasm agreements with people, but there's just no monetary return for it, which is not the case today. Today, anything they license out, there is some kind of remuneration that comes back to them for it.
Okay.
Based on the value it contributes to the overall product.
So if they had a root knot nematode, that's a kind of a new pest that we're getting into resistance, they would get some sort of royalties back on that if they got incorporated.
If they had germplasm that the breeding sector thought had value and was willing to pay them for it, then yeah. But that's all negotiated into the terms of, there is no really free flow of exchange of material anymore.
There used to be.
Oh, well, that's the way it was done. You know?
Probably prior to 95 or so, there was.
So you come up with something and you offer it to your colleagues in exchange for them offering their stuff to you. That's the way it worked. We still do share things, but there's, a 50-page agreement and a payment fee associated with about everything that happens anymore.
And you have to do a lot of that. You have to do some.
Not negotiating that part up front. We get involved now in the licensing on the backside of it, because larger companies have legal departments and people to handle negotiating terms and agreements. A lot of the smaller independent folks don't have that. So what Crop Improvement does is we execute a license for those cultivars or those traits or whatever is coming along, and then we're allowed to sub at one time. So I'm the master, so I am the conduit that makes access available to the smaller folks.
Oh, great. So you really do a lot of that for those folks. All right. Yeah. Now, so you're doing all that, keeping it pure, keeping the license going, keeping people legal and what have you. Didn't know you'd be a lawyer too.
Yeah.
But Jeff, now, first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself, but also, what do you do now with Foundation Seed?
Well, my name is Jeff McHugh. I was born and raised in Columbia. Went to school here at the university under Dr. Felix Fritchie. Got my master's. Moved away for a brief while to Tennessee, Knoxville. There I was an extension assistant for the University of Tennessee, and my wife and I decided that we really enjoyed Columbia as we'd met here, and we'd moved back. And I started on with Foundation Seed as a research specialist, and as of May, I got promoted to the director. And Richard and I work closely together consistently, and that's led us here today.
And so so you're taking the seeds that the breeders have and multiplying them.
Yeah, so we'll start with anywhere from 10 pounds, 50 pounds, and plant those in single row or an acre plot. The procedure's pretty intense. We check the plants at bloom and then again at pubescence for off types.
For soybeans.
Soybeans, and as well as wheat.
Okay. And what do you do with those off types?
We carry them to the other end and either throw them in the ditch or load up the truck if there's too many.
Oh, wow. But you had to be clean when you started planting, didn't you?
Yep, we did. Before each variety, we thoroughly go through every part of the planter, take it apart, look in it with flashlights, make sure that every single seed that we can potentially find is out of it. And then that's when we'd begin the planting process.
And then you have to rogue it
Yes.
after that. They say that flowering and
At pubescence.
pubescence. Oh, the color of the pod, didn't it?
The pods, the hairs. I mean, it's anything that looks different. When in doubt, pull it out. So that's kind of the motto we go by.
And when you harvest, do you look at it again?
So we walk a couple acres for what we consider to be our breeder seed, and the combine is the same as a planter. We have to take it apart, look through everything. We're currently using some Gleaner combines that take about 8 hours to clean, and we spend a lot more time cleaning our equipment than we actually do using it to harvest.
Wow.
Yeah, our purity standard we'd have to meet is less than 5 in 20,000.
What percent is that?
0.02
0.02%.
for foundation class, which is the most pure, has the tightest standard.
That's all you can
0.02.
tolerate. Now, soybeans, you can probably look at hilum color. That could help you a little bit.
That can help if your pubescence is the same. Wheat is the head. You look for on varieties or on lists, height differences. There's a lot of factors that go into it. And soybeans are by far easier to rogue than wheat. I mean, we plant 130,000 soybean and 1.5 million plants per acre in wheat. So it's very detailed, or attention to detail oriented.
Yes. So now, when you harvest your breeder seed, you got that pure. What do you do with it now?
We haul it back to our seed cleaning facility here at South Farm, and it'll go through our seed cleaning process. And depending on the size of it, we have two different systems that we are currently using. I guess it depends on where we're at in the process, whether we need to put it in a bin to clean later, or if we have the ability, we'll clean it as soon as it's harvested. But it goes through our seed cleaning facility, which consists of a seed cleaner, a gravity table, and that separates your best seeds from what you've harvested. It gets out all your splits, all your foreign material, and it will leave us with what we believe is the best sample we can get that we give to Richard. And Richard does, like he described earlier, germination, purity, and germ analysis.
So it goes to him. Now, when's it going to the dealers?
So we get it back and
From Richard.
Gets the test results back.
Oh, the test results.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then as the orders come in, we package it, whether it be in 2,000-pound totes or 50-pound bags or even as small as 1 pound. I mean, we get a lot of orders for one of the oldest varieties in our lineup, which is Williams 82, and it's the standard in a lot of these genetic testing in the lab. And so we've shipped Williams 82 all the way to Israel this year. So
Really?
It's the only known verifiable cultivar still in production. So they've got data on it that goes back 40 years, which you can't find in any other cultivar. So they use the Williams 82 as kind of a base to compare where they came from to where they are now with different traits and characteristics.
So is Williams 82, was that developed here at the University of Missouri?
Now it's developed at the University of Illinois.
But we keep it here?
Well, we're the only ones that still maintain it.
Really? Okay.
Commercially, there are much better options for
Sure.
just a producer.
Because there was Williams and Williams 79.
and then Williams 82. Yeah.
Each one had a little bit of an improvement, a disease package, I think.
I would argue that 79 didn't have much of an improvement, but 82 was definitely, that was what they considered, that was the standard.
Okay.
Because it was broadly adapted. You could grow it anywhere from the Rocky Mountains to the Atlantic Ocean, and it would never be the best, but it would never be the worst. It was very stable, very predictable. It would never disappoint.
All right. Be kind of interesting. What do you think is the yield advantage now to modern cultivars to Williams 82? 10%? 20%?
Potential?
Uh-huh.
Oh, I would say probably closer to 40%.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It depends. On poorer ground, not so much of a difference. On highly productive ground, you would see a better response to today's genetics than that.
That's neat. That's really neat. So now, is this a one and done? You increase it one time and you're done with it?
it depends on the interest level in the variety. Some of them are continued multiple years, but it's just essentially based on interest.
Okay. And you sell it into the grower. I mean the seed sales, the folks that go market seeds.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And then they grow these up, and they have registered seed then. Now, will they sell those after they grow them up, or will they grow it 2 years and increase their numbers before they sell any?
Well, actually, most of what they're selling out today is going the licensed route, which doesn't go through certification.
Okay.
There is a parallel but separate program that was developed to handle non-cultivar marketing, and we just call it the Quality Assurance Program.
Okay.
We go through the same processes, inspections, testing, verification, same process as seed certification. It's got a different color tag on it. And the purity standard is a little more lax for that material than it is for anything in seed certification. The standard for other crop in the certified class is 0.20.
0.2. And you're 0.02.
He's 0.02.
So 10 times.
For the green tag quality assurance class, it's 0.5.
Oh, wow.
So you're allowed 0.5% in that class, which is basically double what it is, anything that would be allowed in seed certification.
Because, every once in a while, if you pay attention to your soybeans, you'll see an off-type color, and that's what that's coming from.
The old-timers used to put a lot of value in appearance. They wanted their fields to be tabletop smooth and nothing standing out. Today's producers are by and large, all they care about is what's my yield monitor telling me.
Sure.
I don't care what it looks like. What's my yield monitor telling me?
Okay.
So
All right.
the visual factor isn't as important as it used to be, but contaminants can still have unseen disadvantages, especially when you talk about pest resistance, disease resistance, anything like that. If you get too much of a contaminant of something that doesn't have the resistance package or the herbicide tolerance package of the bulk of that variety, then you're going to cost yourself.
Okay. And so this program really is not only keeping our former genetics going, but also promoting new genetics. And one of the big success stories is our high oleic soybean. Now, how did that all come about? We've had some stories on that, but that's a Missouri collaboration with many others, correct?
Yes. And like a lot of great inventions, I wouldn't say it was stumbled upon, but it came out of observations that were made in different programs of material. We don't have time to go into the whole story.
Sure.
But it was a collaboration between a plant breeder and I don't know if you would call her a geneticist, but people
Kristen
that worked
Lilly.
on the genetic side and then people that worked in the dirt with breeding new varieties got together and found out they had something.
So now Jeff has those.
We do.
Mm-hmm.
And you're producing the seeds.
Yep. We have 9 high oleic varieties currently.
So they're taking that technology, and the breeders have put that into 9 different other plants, other maturity groups, other.
Yep.
A lot more than that because it has evolved into a multi-state collaboration.
Uh-huh.
So they're actually working with maturity groups 2 through 8, I think, currently.
Which goes from what, Minnesota down to the Gulf.
Down to, yeah, exactly.
All right. And so you are producing those seeds, high oleic, selling them to the seed dealers, and then they're selling them to their customers. They're multiplying them and selling them to their customers.
And we're also selling to some crushers for the oil content. It has 0 trans fat, so it's been, I guess, researched that it has lowered people's risk for coronary heart disease using this soybean oil in foods.
It's more stable. You don't have to process it through hydrogenation to make it more user-friendly, healthy, less processed. That's
So that's a health benefit for people.
Yes.
It's not just affecting the producer or the livestock. It's actually helping people directly.
And there are other high oleic material on the market, have been for a while. The difference in the one developed here is that this one is considered non-transgenic. So it wasn't done through transfer of genes between species. It was a naturally occurring mutation in a sequencing of genes that brought about the desired trait without having to transfer genes between.
So that means those soybeans can be sold anywhere in the world.
That's one of the, I think, attractive things about it is in order to get transgenic material into foreign markets, there's a tremendous burden in terms of forms, data, trials, fees, all that. None of that exists with this because it's not considered modified. It's just another soybean.
Wow. Do you think this is going to be where eventually all of our soybeans in Missouri or from 2 to 8 are going to have this trait eventually? Whereas United States soybeans will be just high oleic, and that will be one of our big selling points. Could it be that big?
I don't know. My crystal ball went on the fritz.
Oh, is that right?
Usually in production type traits or characteristics, that's what happens. The way I would look at it is a lot of times there are premiums offered for beneficial traits.
Right.
Well, I don't know that there's ever been a beneficial trait that started out with a premium that didn't end up to be just another bar you have to meet for the market to accept it.
Sure.
As production ramps up and things like that. But it's got a lot of promise.
Yes, yes, it does. Now, Jeff, you mentioned crushers. So actually, crushers are buying the seed to plant themselves.
They're using it to crush. Like they take our soybean to their facility, extract the oil, and
Oh wow.
so yeah, that's been a big part of our sales is these crushers.
Because you have that material, a lot of it.
Right, and we farm about 1,200 acres across the state, and only about 250 of it are increases. So we have a lot of bulk acres that we're just planting in these high oleic soybeans.
Oh.
Is a way to generate a little more revenue for us.
So just like the breeders, you have to generate revenue other ways too.
Yeah, we're self-funded within the university system, so.
Okay, great. And is that what Richard has that sower emblem on his handout there of the man sowing? Is that your emblem or is that Jeff's emblem?
No, that's Crop Improvements.
That's
logo.
Crop Improvements. All right, because you see that in if you like Missouri Vintage, you'll see a lot of that on bags and other things.
Yeah, most modern people will go, "What in the world is that?"
Yes,
They don't know that used to be burlap bags and hand sown fields and things like that. But that's
and I'm old enough. I think I remember a metal tag on the soybean. Was that certified soybeans? I would
well,
see.
it used to be. That was one of the requirements to sell certified seed because all bags were hand sown, and a little bit later machine sown. But in order to make sure that there was no contamination introduced, you had to put a metal clip on each end of it. That was your proof that bag had been sealed and not tampered with.
Oh, I'll be. So why'd y'all have the metal clips on it?
That was the buyer's assurance that the container hadn't been opened and tampered with. So it was like the seal. You know, once you finish something, you seal it. Well, that was the seal that was the original, and nobody had.
So keeping that purity was that important. That this is I'm buying what I'm supposed to be buying.
Yeah, because I mean, every seed business was no different than any other. There were some unscrupulous people out there that, if they could get away with it, would take out the good and replace with the bad, that kind of thing.
You know, I remember buying some extra seed from a elevator one time. It was supposed to be brand X. Let's say it had the wrong flower color on it. They had not sold me what they said they were selling me.
They sold you whatever they had.
They did and called it that.
Yeah.
So today that cannot happen anymore. There's just no way that can happen.
Well, it could.
But not legally.
Not legally, no.
Right.
But it could.
It could.
Not so much in the major field crops, but in some of the minor, you can read in any of the regulatory journals, happens all the time, especially a lot in forage grass, where they will claim something to be one thing when it's really just excess production of something else they had a lot of.
And by the time you figure that out, it's a perennial crop.
Well, most people would never figure it out.
Yeah. Like maybe our non-endophyte tall fescue.
That's a very good example.
Yeah.
Because that usually sells at a premium compared to just regular old Kentucky 31. And if you've got some extra Kentucky 31 and short on some other stuff, you might just slide a little of that over.
Oh, wow.
But it's like anything else. Honest people are going to be honest.
Yes.
And you make sure you do business with honest people.
And that's what you're really doing is trying to make sure it is what it says it is.
That's the whole foundation and basis for seed certification, is to make sure that what the producer buys is what it's supposed to be, and it meets the purity standard without contamination or adulteration.
And Jeff, your job is to take our breeders come up with, Missouri breeders, soybean breeders. We used to have a wheat breeder. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. And yours is to increase that and keep that, because you have cold storage rooms that you keep some of the seed back so you can increase it whenever you need to.
Right. We bridge that gap between research and commercialization. And
do all the roguing, to make sure it's 0.02%.
Yeah, it's intense at times.
They do all the dirty work that's necessary to make sure that there's pure seed for people to start with or to go back to that nobody else would ever dream of doing.
Yes. The pains that and people think, well, that's farming. But it's like farming on steroids and what you have to go through.
It's like farming under a microscope.
Yeah.
Because just the time constraints on everything they do.
So you got like 20 or so varieties of soybeans?
Yeah, we have 27 varieties of soybeans available this year, give or take.
So you had to spend 8 hours each time cleaning that combine out.
Well, those are for our larger varieties. We have a couple plot combines that we use. We're actually have recently purchased a newer combine that is only supposed to take about 2 hours to clean out.
Oh, wow. That saves a lot.
We're looking forward to the arrival of that.
But even your plot combine, you probably have to clean it out.
Yep, that takes about an hour and a half.
Okay, so you have to clean them out. And then you still have to run them through your separation that you're only going to sell or have available a high-quality seed.
The highest quality we can possibly achieve.
Right. Yep. And the purity, the cleanliness has to be in those splits. And that's another thing that when you harvest, you probably have to harvest soybeans when you're not going to get any splits because you don't want to lose those or damage that seed coat to drive down the germination.
Yeah, timeliness is everything. And we're learning quickly that it makes a big difference when you harvest. So wheat, soybeans are the big ones right now for you, and Richard's doing peanuts, rice, and those come out of what? Mississippi and Georgia and Arkansas.
Most of the stock seed used to establish the registered certified production is actually coming out of Georgia.
Georgia, okay.
Georgia is the number one developer of new peanut cultivars, and that's where most.
And rice is going to have Arkansas.
Rice is coming out of Arkansas. A lot of it's coming out of Louisiana.
Okay. All right.
As far as development goes,
that's what the breeders are.
Those are the two. Louisiana and Arkansas are the two largest.
Okay.
Sources of new rice genetics.
So they will be selling to Missouri dealers who.
Correct.
Who then replicate the seed and sell.
Yeah. And our Missouri Foundation program used to maintain rice.
Okay.
Back in the day, where there was all public varieties, and most of the rice producing states would get together and say, well, we all can't grow 12 varieties, so you grow these 4 and I'll grow these 4 and you grow these 4, and then we will trade back and forth and take care of everybody's customers.
Could we see that again as Missouri and peanut acres rise?
Probably not, because like most everything else, a lot of the R&D is going to the private sector.
Okay.
And not peanuts. Peanuts is still pretty much public, but it's a specialty crop.
Now, talking about specialty crops, one of our faculty members and team got a $10 million grant to develop new cover crop varieties. Mm-hmm. Rob Myers, his team. Do you all foresee that being a big part of Foundation Seed in Missouri? Is it seed or crop improvement? Crop. See my age here. Missouri.
Used to be seed.
Okay, I get those backwards. Do you see that as being something potential that you could be going into?
I do.
Potentially, yes. It would require that market segment to mature a little bit, because right now cover crops are pretty much just what we call VNS, variety not stated, generic.
Right, the same ones my father planted in the 30s.
Especially when you get a cereal rye is a big, a lot of people prefer that for use as a cover crop now. Well, there aren't many new cultivars of cereal rye. We're still using Renza Abruzzi and Elbon. And
oh, Elbon's not new?
Well, I guess it depends on what you compare it to.
Oh, well, but our age, that's pretty new.
But typically they're using those because they, number one, you can get, depends on where you're located, but you can get cost share reimbursement for using certain species, and it's cheaper.
Okay. But as these new improved varieties occur, there is that possibility
if there are new improved varieties coming, there aren't many breeding programs working in those crop kinds.
Right, and I think the purpose of
that could be a potential if you could come up with something that you could show, for this particular use, which in your example is cover crop. These cultivars are superior to your old grandpa's varieties.
Right.
Then yeah, that would be an opportunity, because I don't think cover crop's going away.
No, and if you hear the farmers, we got to look at blooming earlier, maturing earlier, but still get the biomass. So there's a lot of things for us to look at. And then, of course, sequestering carbon and big root system. So there's a lot of potential there, and that really makes it exciting. But wheat, I understand, used to be your number one crop, and the wheat acres in Missouri has fallen off recently in the last.
They have been falling off for the last 30 years.
Really?
Yeah.
What's the reasons for that? You're old farm boy, you understand this.
Oh, well, there are a lot of different factors that go into it. Wheat, even in a good year, wheat can be challenging. If you grew wheat the way Grandpa did, after harvest is done, you go out and you sow 2 bushel to the acre and throw a little fertilizer on it. And the return for what people were looking at, they never managed wheat to be a major revenue stream. It was just kind of an afterthought, something they did. The genetics lagged in development and performance for a long time. We ran into many years where Fusarium head blight, which most people call scab, is a huge issue. And if the conditions are right, you can lose a whole crop.
But that's what our retired wheat breeder, Ann McHenry, focused on.
That is correct. She headed up, there was a federal initiative to try to identify and develop Fusarium head blight resistant or tolerant germplasm to put into high yielding varieties, so that if you did have a bad scab outbreak, you wouldn't lose the crop.
And that's what Bess and Truman and some of the other ones had going.
Yeah,
for
Ernie was actually the first
Ernie
that came out to be. I don't think they ever claimed it was resistant to scab, but it had a high level of tolerance. And what that meant was within the head, you have all the different spikelets, kernels. And with non-tolerant varieties, if one spikelet got infected, it would spread to the whole head. You'd lose it all. And the highly tolerant varieties, if one spikelet got infected, then that one was infected, but it wouldn't spread to the rest of the head. So I don't think we can ever eliminate Fusarium head blight as an issue, but we could greatly reduce the impact it has on the product.
Yeah, there's no true resistance. It's all tolerance.
Tolerance.
It really is.
That's what you learn in the game.
And also, just in my career, in my life, they've really shortened wheat maturity.
Yes.
I think Ernie was one of the big ones for that, too.
Yep. When it came out, it was probably the earliest high-yielding option available.
And it really pushed double crop soybeans out of the boot hill, probably to the Missouri River.
Absolutely. Well, and farther north.
Farther north, yes.
It used to be, I can remember back when I was a lot younger, you hoped you were cutting wheat by the 4th of July.
Yes.
Well, now, if you're not cutting wheat by the 15th of June, you're a little disappointed.
Right.
And there have been times recently where your double crop beans went in after you cut your wheat, actually went in before some of your full season beans.
Yeah, that's true. I planted a lot of soybeans on the 4th of July, double crop soybeans on the 4th of July. Now, like you said, we're done 2 weeks before that.
Yeah.
We want to. So, but at the same time, though, industry is not as big in the wheat as they are in soybeans, correct?
No.
So
as a general rule, no, there aren't nearly as many entities involved with trying to research and develop new wheat cultivars. Especially, we talk about wheat. There are a lot of different market segments of wheat. Missouri is a soft red winter producing state primarily.
A large one.
And we are the largest.
Okay. We're number one.
I'm going to say we're number one, but it's always a race between Missouri, Illinois, and Ohio.
Okay.
1, 2, 3. And Missouri typically is usually always number one. for soft red. We do have some hard red winter production, mostly on the border states, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, along that belt, because that's primarily what those states grow, is hard wheat. But we're mostly a soft wheat state.
Ours goes into cookies and cakes and such.
Soft wheat is a pastry wheat. Hard wheat's a bread wheat.
Okay, great. And they can both be fed to animals.
And they both make good feed options.
Yeah. Even better than corn in some ways.
Depends on the price.
Protein-wise. Yeah. But so, okay. So wheat has lagged, but we still have some. Now, research here at MU is showing that when you have wheat in the rotation, your soil health indicators just skyrocket.
Right.
Wheat is one of the best things for our soil.
In a lot of different ways. Soil health, erosion control, a lot of different benefits to having wheat or any kind of cereal, but especially wheat.
And there is a push for more wheat. I'm starting to see more, but not like you used to. But there is some more, and a lot of it's in our southern parts of the state.
Missouri, in recent years, 30 years ago, Missouri would average probably 1.5, 1.6 million acres of wheat. Recently, Missouri runs probably 500,000, 600,000, maybe 700,000 acres of wheat.
So about a third of what we used to be.
Yeah.
Okay. But developing new high-yielding varieties and developing our management of it could make wheat an option.
Should make wheat an option.
Yeah, will make. So what can we do about that? What have you been working on to help with this?
Funny you should ask.
Yes.
We start, you mentioned earlier that the wheat breeder at Missouri, Dr. Ann McKendry, was working on, she headed up, I believe, the soft red component of the federal scab initiative, trying to come up with a new resistant tolerant germplasm. She headed that up and was making great progress. We have, if you just go back and look at results, we have increased the average state yield for wheat, probably 25 bushel plus in the last 12, 14 years, yeah. Because they've made great strides. Number one, you reduce one of the biggest detriments to good wheat, which was scab, then your yields are going to go up. And they've just done a better job in breeding better varieties.
And Jeff, you all grow those out for the seed dealers.
But it became, as time went along, at crop improvement, we could foresee a time when Dr. McKendry wasn't going to be on staff anymore. Not that there was anything wrong, but she was going to retire.
Right.
And we started to worry about what's going to happen with her program after she retires, because there was no continuation plan. There was really not much support, because royalties or research assessments coming back from her varieties were funding a big chunk of it. We started to worry about, well, what's going to happen? Is there a plan? So we visited with the powers that be on campus and found out that they probably, in the absence of something to step in and pick up support, probably were not going to be able to refill the position. So that got us to start thinking, well, gosh, you've got this valuable asset that can benefit a lot of people, especially Missouri wheat producers. What can we do? So the logical thing that came to the forefront was, well, we need to have a wheat growers group that can rally support for, and so that the university administrators can have some kind of a assurance that there will be a base level of support to keep her program going. So that's when we started to work with a lot of different people from a lot of different sectors on the idea of establishing a wheat growers council, much like there is a corn growers council and a soybean growers council and a rice growers council. It seemed like everything had a council except wheat, which we thought odd because Missouri is the number one soft red producing state, and if you take all wheat classes into account, Missouri was the 13th largest wheat producing state. We were the only one that didn't have a wheat council. And part of that process would be subject to producer approval, the establishment of a checkoff that would provide some base funding for, number one, supporting the wheat development program, but then doing research in a lot of other areas, like you mentioned, soil health, benefits, double cropping, the benefits that has. A lot of research that probably should be conducted, Missouri specific, that's not, because there's just no funding for it.
Well, disease, insect control.
All of that, yeah.
All of that, fertility. Someone mentioned, 15-inch-row wheat compared to drilled. Is there a difference?
Sure.
How does that fit in? So there's an opportunity not only for breeding, develop new lines, new genetics for resistant to diseases, but also how to manage our wheat.
How to manage it and how to maximize the benefits in return from it.
Wow. So what can we do about this? So what's going on?
Well, we actually started working on the framework to put together a council, which it's a multi-step process in order to do all this. First thing you have to do is form a group, form a council. And it's actually not that hard, we thought. So we started putting the framework together, developed a plan in 2018, worked through 2019, got everything ready, the petition to form the council, had all the details ironed out, started the process of collecting signatures, because the requirement to form a council is that you have to get signatures from 5% of the growers of record of that commodity in the state. And we're working off of 2017 census numbers. And according to the 2017 ag census, there are 3,817 wheat growers in the state of Missouri, which is not a lot. But 5% of that would be we needed to collect about 195 signatures. So we started the signature collection process late 2019. We were going around to the other commodity groups, regional meetings in early 2020. We were going great.
Yeah.
And then this little thing called COVID happened. And all the opportunities to get in front of people and explain why we thought it was a good idea, the process, how it would be set up, that all just disappeared. So we lost a lot of momentum. At our office, we tried to collect signatures through phone calls and through emails, and it's hard to convince people to sign something over the phone. Or
sure,
if you can get in front of them, we've not run into any opposition anywhere. But to try to do it remotely or digitally, it just doesn't work very well.
And we have a record of what's happened, good things like soybeans. We talked about the high oleic. Without the soybean checkoff, that would have never happened.
Yeah, and that's why we thought with wheat it would be a no-brainer, because the only thing we had to do was point to the successes of the other checkoff programs.
Yeah.
And what the return on the farmer's investment that they have received over the years from.
Yeah. And also marketing. That we haven't talked about that, but marketing to the outside world of our wheat and our soybeans and corn.
Yeah, the organizing group actually put together a list of funding priorities, because what we didn't want to do would be form a group and go to the wheat growers of Missouri and say, hey, we want to establish a checkoff and we want to collect a bunch of money, and you just go ahead and give it to us, then we'll figure out what to do with it. We wanted to be able to tell them up front, these are the funding priorities. If we're successful in doing this, then the organizing group says these will be the first things that we invest your money into research for.
And that's what this group's going to do.
Yeah, that's what the council does, is the council manages the producers' money in the form of the checkoff.
So you need this 200 or 195 signatures to be able to form the council.
Yeah, actually, my goal was to collect at least between 250 and 300, just in case, because the process is, once we have collected the signatures, we have to file the petition with the director of the Missouri Department of Ag. And it's a 5-page petition that spells out how it's formed, how the producers are represented, how it will operate. All of the do's and don'ts are spelled out in the petition itself. And then you supply that to the director with the signatures, and they have to go through and check to make sure that your petition meets all of the legal requirements for a council. and then they have to validate the signatures. And just in case there were some signatures that were called into question, we wanted to have some cushion so that we had well more than we needed.
And these would be validated like from our local FSA office?
I don't know the
Probably.
mechanics of how they go about it, but they would have to have some database to check
Yes.
those against.
So who's eligible to sign then? We talked about this before we went on the air.
By definition in the petition, a wheat grower in the state of Missouri is defined as any individual or corporate entity that has produced commercial wheat with a value of at least $1,000 once in the last 3 years.
All right. And that can be the farmer himself, him or
Yep,
herself.
correct.
It can be the landowner.
Correct.
But now, if it's multiple landowners like myself, it's my brother, my sister, and myself. That's 3 signatures that you could take.
If each of you has a stake
Yes.
in the farm, and
But-
each of you receives income from wheat proportionately based on your yes.
Right. That's $1,000. So
Yes.
if it's at least $3,000 for the whole
And
farm.
you split things third, then you're good.
All right. So that, as well as the farmer, can do it. So how do they get about signing this? What's the next step?
Up until COVID, like I said, we were going around the state to meetings, to field days, anywhere somebody would let us stand up and talk for 5 minutes, making the case and asking for signatures. We hope that we'll be able to start that again this cycle with field days and things, but we'll take signatures any way we can get them.
So they can just contact you?
Yep. Yes, they can call, they can email. I will send them the petition and the signature sheet. Answer any questions. If anybody out there is having a group that you want a speaker for, I work cheap for 5 minutes. Be happy to come talk to people. Anything we can do to get over the hurdle of collecting the signatures to be able to file the petition.
And you got like 80 already?
Yeah, and I'm going to have to go back and do some checking because some of those were collected in 2019, 2020. But currently we have roughly between 85 and 90, I think.
Okay. All right.
So we don't need that many. We just have to hit that magic number to get over the hump.
You're right. Well, that's fantastic. And like Jeff, you mentioned, you can sign it too.
I can sign it,
That's right.
That's
You
right.
can.
So
and I will be.
That's right. Exactly. Because this is something that's been missing that we really need in Missouri agriculture to take us to the next level.
I think just a greater awareness out in the country because people, you had a bad year with wheat 10 years ago. Well, you remember the bad year.
You remember the scab that you had?
Yeah, and you miss out on all the improvements and opportunities that have come up since then.
That's right. That's right.
People are creatures of habit.
That's right.
It takes a while to get into a habit, and when you get into one, it's hard to get out of a habit. But once you get out, it's hard to get back into it. So it's a cycle.
One of my good friends calls wheat landlord crop. Landlords want him to do it. He does it for that. But there's a lot of other good reasons to
There are a
plant.
lot of good reasons
Cash
for
flow.
the producer himself to take a look at it. I think if most people were honest, sit down and put a pencil to paper and sketched it out, it would be hard to argue with not doing it.
Yes, sure it would. But Richard, any last summaries you want to mention?
I don't think so. You're a pretty good host.
All right.
You
with the
covered
most.
everything from stem to stern.
That's
so
right. Well, we try to be that. And, Missouri Seed Improvement,
Crop improvement.
has been around for a long time.
I can already tell I'm going to have to do a better job of marketing.
That's right. I can't keep that straight. See, I see that as a kid too much in my mind.
Our phone number at the office is area code 573-449-0586. And if anybody wanted to contact us through email, we have just a generic email we use for that. It's moseed, MOSEED, at AOL.com. And I realize AOL shows my age, but I'm too old to change now, so it's going to be that until I retire.
And Mo Seed, too.
That's right. Well,
That's why I messed up.
that goes back to the original. I wasn't going to change it. And you want Foundation Seeds, I'll let Jeff give their number if anybody wanted to give them a jingle.
Yeah, our number is area code 573-884-7333.
And 7333 spells seed.
Oh,
So
really?
884 seed.
884 seed.
You don't have to be a seed company or a seed producer to buy those varieties through Jeff.
Oh, really? So,
Wheat for food plots, soybean for food plots.
or
just commercial.
just commercial?
Commercial.
Yeah.
So we can buy directly from you all, and we would get the purest of the pure.
Yep.
I have
Some of the varieties will require a license, but others not.
I have written a lot of licenses for just individual farmers. No intention to sell seed. It's just for their own use.
Wow.
But yeah, they can provide for that market as well.
Perfect. Well, we'll have your contact numbers up, and I can attest those seed cleaners. I can hear them go late into the evening every day. Because they work hard.
We do.
All right. Well, thanks so much, guys.
Thanks for
Thank
having
you
us.
for the opportunity.
You're welcome. And that's it for Tim's Take this week. We'll hope to see you next time.